Now, the party over self-interest, the ruling All Progressives Congress, is ensuring that it secures the leadership of the 9th National Assembly. Now, also, acting CJN gets to sit tight a little longer for another 3 months. This is Plus Politics, and I'm David Alabi. Welcome. Now, the APC is ensuring it is doing all in its power to make sure that the president has no issues with the 9th National Assembly. And joining me in the studio now to discuss this and much more as to how the National Assembly will fare, we have Onnoghen, a legal practitioner. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you.
And we also have Ikoyi, a political analyst as well. Good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Now, gentlemen, the tussle for leadership at the National Assembly level continues, and we are still waiting for the National Assembly to kick off come June. But now we have the latest report that Bola Tinubu, the national leader of the APC, says that he's throwing his weight behind Femi Gbajabiamila as Speaker, and then we also have Ahmed Lawan as the President of the Senate. Some have said, well, him throwing his weight is because he's trying to secure his presidential bid for 2023. Let's have your thoughts, Emmanuel. What do you make of this report?
Well, he has its politics. It's a game of numbers and capacity. But he has not taken into consideration the thinking of the core north. Would the core north be comfortable with him as a president? Would he not be too powerful as a president? Would the core north not probably prefer a Professor Shibajo, who has worked with Buhari, President Buhari, for 4 years and going to do another 4 years, 8 years together? These are some of the dynamics that may play out. But the fact of it is that he has his capacity because he has a very deep pocket. And with that, he can do a lot of things. But it's still mourning. Politics in Nigeria is a very fluid game. Nobody knows what may come out because in 2015 at this time, everybody thought that the calculations were going to come out the way they came out. But what I have seen over the years since 1999 is that the National Assembly has tried, especially the House of Representatives, has tried to be independent of the executive. From the guy from Kanu, what was the speaker that took over from Buhari? They've tried to be quite independent. So the members that are returning members or the new members may have a different idea about who their leaders be. And then there's a speculation too that he is also rooting for his wife to be the deputy Senate president. These are dynamics that may play out. And
okay, we'll go to now quickly weighing on this matter now. The national chairman of the party, the national leader of the party, says that I have no ulterior motives here. Why is it difficult for Nigerians to believe he truly has no motive and is just throwing his weight behind individuals he believes has values and wouldn't bring unexpected surprises or antics?
I think for me, the party politics that we're seeing ongoing across board on the APC, I think it's their own business, because at the end of the day, the interest there is not for the nation. It's strictly for themselves. Mostly, we've seen over the last few years that when people get power, it's for most importantly for personal aggrandizement. So, if the national chairman is saying that if the underlying interest is for the people, not for himself, I think it's like the same thing like saying that fire doesn't burn. All right, so it doesn't make any logical sense. For the motive is there that he's trying as much as possible to make sure that whoever becomes the next speaker or the next Senate president work in the favor of the party, and the favor of the party means his own interest.
He says he believes in the Nigerian dream and expecting that every Nigerian receives the dividend of democracy. So we can't just lash out at him and come hard and say that there's ulterior motives.
That's his personal opinion, and the same way I could say that his personal opinion is, I could say that his personal opinion, because there's a lot of ulterior motive to it. Because at the end of the day, the last administration, though that the president was INEC declared him winner, there were some things that was personally against the interest of the nation. He stood beside the president. It wasn't about the country for him. So presently we're having issues in Zamfara. We've not seen anything from the party or from his leadership to say, okay, this is what we're articulating with the president towards like the direction of the party to make sure that the security issues are solved. What is primarily important to them at this point is who becomes who in the next National Assembly. So their interest is just for them, not for the country.
Okay, Emmanuel, quickly now. Some would also argue that him throwing his weight behind Femi Gbajabiamila as well as Ahmed Lawan is to ensure that you have people who are loyal to the party's dreams and aspiration for the country. Now, we know how 2015 played out up until now as the 8th National Assembly is exiting and we are having the 9th National Assembly coming through. The whole intrigues, the whole drama, defections, etc., surprises that they weren't expecting. So don't think having these individuals, some would say that, well, they are just trying to ensure that they don't make the same mistakes they made in 2015, still have a majority.
Yeah, well, the majority in the National Assembly wasn't based on the party's agenda. It was based on the personality cult of the president. Most of the persons who contested elections did not push what they know about getting the country out of the doldrums we are in.
They were making specific references to Bukola Saraki as well as Yakubu Dogara.
Yeah, Bukola Saraki and, you see, Yakubu Dogara and Bukola Saraki, it was also the fact that the party did not accept to work with them. If not, they were quite urbane in their approach to governance. They opened up the National Assembly. They were able to reach out to the opposition and get the opposition to work with them. It also needed the party to say, look, these guys won this election under our ticket. Then after the first round of quarrel, okay, let us embrace them and give them the opportunity for the country. But for 4 years, nothing happened because the party refused to accept them as their candidates. And they won the election under the APC. They did. So no matter what, if they did wrong in coming out, but like
defecting, you
not
mean?
Defecting, then it was later on that they defected. At the early stage, they were within the party. When Dr. Bukola Saraki had all the court cases, the police harassment, and all those, he was still in the party. He was still in APC when he had all these issues. And it was after all this had gotten to a head that he defected. For over 2 years, he was in APC. So we need to look at these things from what is the interest of the country in this thing? Is it just the parties and the individuals? And unfortunately, this is the game playing out. People are more interested in what they get for themselves than what comes out for the country.
But do you now think that this whole play out is much more of an appointment rather than having elective offices? Some have said that this is the appointed elective office.
Yeah, you see, unfortunately, we are going to have a dictatorship of the executive, where the members, the people who we supposedly elected into office, are not even allowed to choose among themselves. To say, look, this is the person we want to lead us.
Well, the same APC gave the nod and said that, well, you can go lobby with the PDP. But quickly now, we'll go weighing on this matter now. To what extent does an adversarial National Assembly affect the dreams of President Muhammadu Buhari in consolidating all of the efforts that are being put on ground and ensuring that we have the dividend of democracy? Some have said that what we had play out in 2015 was adversarial. They intentionally delayed certain bills, we had certain passages, budget pardon, and a whole lot more. Bola Tinubu pointed all of these fingers and said that, well, to a very large extent, there was a good dream, but the National Assembly didn't make it come to fruition.
A lot of things that issue we have in Nigeria, that people say things just what you can tell as maybe fake or things that are not verified. Since 1999 till this moment, the best National Assembly that we've had in terms of passage of bills, in terms of what they've achieved under 4 years, is the 2015, is the 8th National Assembly. So what Bola Tinubu has no standing, he has no merit, that argument, all right? What APC is trying to do at this point is to have a pliant National Assembly that will just be in there to rubber stamp whatever the executive wants. What we have is a democracy, all right? I want to believe we have a democracy. The democracy have a three-arm of government which is fundamental, all right? The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. They are not supposed to play with each other, love
so
each other.
So the relationship, the back and forth is expected?
It's not back and forth. They're supposed to be check and balances. All right, because of that, if you don't do that, you have what we call the tyranny of the executive, where the executive can wake up and do something. Look at what's happening in Onnoghen. We'll still get to that. But the end of the day, seriously, Nigerians should be thankful to the 8th National Assembly. All right, we've seen instances where the delay in presenting the budget in the presidency doing what they need to do led to a delay. So they shouldn't put all their failures on the feet of the legislature. No, not that, because the people that were represented, the people that we had more contact with over the last few years is the legislature. Half of the time, our president was not in the country.
Do you think that we are always quick to point out the blaming finger and saying that we'll do better than our last mistake or our last government, or we'll do better than whatever party in charge did?
Why not? Because the truth is this, as a point, as I keep saying this all the time, we're a country where we don't learn from our crisis moment. All right, what happened with APC in 2015? What's going to happen after maybe in June will be worse, because at the end of the day, so like you rightly said, a lot of people got into that place, all right, because of the road of the popularity wave of Mr. President, and they got in there. Some of them have their different agenda. You can't just wake up and tell all of them that go with one man, go with this person, go with that person. If they're able to achieve that, that is fine by them.
Talking about agenda now, do you expect that we'll see any surprises with the two candidates that they're pushing for the House Speaker as well as the Senate President as well? Because you look at what happened in 2015 and the later defection, do you think any of those surprises will come into play, because they're talking about loyalty there, and that's a language they hold strongly onto?
Yeah, the surprise of 2015 may not be there anymore, because they would be prepared for it.
You're sure they will rein them in back into order?
But that does not change the fact that when they're in the chambers and they want to take decisions, things may change. But like I said, Tinubu has a very deep pocket, a very, very deep pocket. So it may determine, and then the issue of budget padding, it was the same campaign issue of 2015 that the PDP leadership and the National Assembly was padding budget, that APC came to stop it. Now they are accusing their own members who are APC of coming to budget padding. So it's just, for me, from what they are saying, giving the dog a bad name to hang it. Because budget padding has been there since 1999.
Okay.
It's not a new thing. It was the reason why a Senate president was arraigned and tried for 14 years until he was, his matter was struck out recently. You get? So if budget padding had been there since the time of Wabara, it should not be a reason.
It shouldn't be a thing of surprise now.
A reason for saying that we don't want that. Because what are they going to do to change?
There's late passages of bills late delays with the budget.
But it flies in the face of his argument.
He said, I'm telling you, check it. This National Assembly.
Now it's time to correct things and not make the same mistakes.
Correct what?
What are you
going to do?
The inefficiencies and all of the...
Where is the inefficiency? If this was the best...
This is the best National Assembly in terms of the four. They did better than David Mark's administration. They did better than the administration before David Mark, even Chuba Akadebo. In terms of the passage of bills they've passed under the last few years.
And they're saying they want to do better now.
They're knocking down the Saraki-led Senate and Yakubu Dogara's Senate, saying that they didn't do enough. Whereas evidence is saying that put all the guys before, that these guys did better than them. You might not like them because they left your party, but the fact still remains that they were better off. And like you say, we're only going to have a functional National Assembly if these guys among themselves will choose who will work for them.
Okay, now one of the issues that also raised its head is to what extent does throwing Bola Tinubu's weight behind these actors. Now, some would also say that Bola Tinubu has been a leader, has delivered, and he has an eye for selecting individuals, be it in ministerial office or state actors, etc. Would you say he produces good leaders or has an eye to also help select? And
are you talking of Lagos State or generally? Because if what
both Lagos State and generally, because we also have
State,
a governor who became minister as well.
I'm coming. If you also want to compare that with what Aregbe Shola did in Osun State, that's a total failure. So we need to look at, and then let us also look at what Lagos State is. Lagos State has about almost 50% of the resources of all the states put together in Nigeria. I mean, 50% of about 50% of the states put together in Nigeria. That's the resources, the financial resources in Lagos State. And Lagos State has more educated people. Lagos State is it's easier for you to get people to follow your policies. And the business is in Lagos. The businessman wants his business to succeed. So he does everything possible to make his environment better. All of us in Lagos, we run boreholes, we run generators. How many areas in Lagos have pipe-borne water? How many? Look at the road we're coming out, driving in from, trying to go to Muhammadu Bello way. The road was locked. We had to find another route to get here. So look at the roads. The roads are all caving in. There are so many things that are not right. And when you have a man who has absolute power, controlling a state like Lagos without anybody blinking, he removed the governor at his pleasure. At his pleasure.
Some would say that elections were held and that's why
he removed the governor at his pleasure.
Second term.
The same thing happened to Fashola, almost happened to Fashola, when, after the first term of Fashola, it was just that people in Lagos had fallen in love with Fashola, and there was a threat that Fashola may leave the party and he may lose, his party may lose. So these are things, let us also look at this.
Fashola still remains the current Minister of Power Works and Housing as well.
Not by his effort, but by Fashola's effort, because of Fashola's contribution towards Buhari's success in 2015.
Okay, Ugochukwu, now the Arawa Youth Forum has accused Bola Tinubu just yesterday of now turning into a dictator and is running an anti-North agenda. I don't seem to understand what they are saying here, but do you have any inclination?
I'm not a spokesperson for ACF, the Ariwa group, neither am I the spokesperson to Tinubu. But the truth is that, and it would be interesting, it would be nice for us not to get in between their power play and their power tussle, because for me that is what it is, all right? This is the same guy that worked with you guys to get the president into power. This is the same guys that you guys have your relationship in terms of political relationship.
So can you speak with both sides of the mouth?
No, see, for me, I don't know what is going on between them. But I think, like I said earlier, everybody's playing their own game. All right, the North have their own interest, all right, and the West have their own interest. And as it stands right now, it's clear to them that if Femi wins, Femi will go in there to do the bidding of Tinubu at the national level. All right, and not maybe looking for someone that will be their own candidate. At the end of the day, the person gets in there will do their own agenda. So for me, it still comes down to my argument. All right, we're not making this all about Nigeria, all about the country, all about who is competent, what should be the driving thing.
How do we make this about Nigeria? Because now the APC has the majority seats in the House, and it's still an elective office. But even if you have majority and it's an elective office, it's almost not rocket science to know that the pendulum will swing in your favor.
The truth is this: in that same party, you have people that are not pleased with the party's leadership. It is impossible to have everybody to fall in line with what the party is doing.
Talking about not being so pleased now, Ali Ndume as well is also in the race and seems not to want to give up as well. And the Northern Youth Forum says that they're mobilizing support and ensuring that Ali Ndume becomes the next Senate president because he's going to deliver. He's going to do better. They raised issues about him sponsoring the bill for the establishment of the Northeast, a commissioner for the Northeast, and 9 other bills as well. To what extent do you think these individuals will be able to rally support?
They don't have any powers to, because at this point, what is happening in the National Assembly has to do with the senators and the leadership of the party. They cannot push the presidency to do what the presidency doesn't want to do. They cannot push the leadership of the party to do what they don't want to do. Right? All they can do is to put out the opinion piece and write out what they think on the dailies of newspaper or on social media. Their powers is just limited to that. What is going to happen? What is happening already in the APC is the decision of the party. And as it seems at the moment, the party is pushing forward for Lawan and Bamijala. But my take is this: a day is too long in politics. All right. Before June, something else might come in, and something else might come in until the balance that will make maybe Lawan, because we saw it in 2015. At the point, everybody felt it was going to be Bajamila and I think Lawan in 2015. But a shocker came in. So we can't just rule everything out and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's interesting, but the coming days will reveal.
Emmanuel, in your own opinion, what do you think, where lies the fate of Ali Ndume now in this mix?
Well, Ali Ndume, from what the calculations, there may be a surprise, and a person not known, a dark horse, may turn out to clinch the Senate presidency. It's possible, but like he said, I am insisting that there's something that is going to happen. Most Nigerian politicians are purchasable. If they see money, they follow money. And the only power that is the only pocket that is deeper than that of President Tinubu today is that of the presidency.
These are still mere speculation.
No, I'm coming. And the influence Tinubu has in APC is quite immense. But unless the presidency decides to go against him, which is possible, given the dynamics, then it may turn out to be a rough fight.
Well, it may turn out to be a rough fight. Thank you very much for your contribution. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Emmanuel Umore, a legal practitioner, as well as Ugochukwu Ikeako. Well, as they say, time will definitely tell, and we'll see how the 9th National Assembly will play out. And when we have the next conversation, we'll be able to make a much more informed communication and decision as to whether or not it was truly an elective or appointed office. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Now, we'll take a quick break. When we return shortly, we'll be looking at the extended tenure of the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Mohammed. Just stay with us. Well, glad to have you back, and you're still watching Plus Politics now. It's no longer news that the tenure of Muhammadu Tanko as the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria has been extended by another 3 months. But what does this necessarily imply? And we'll also be talking about Onnoghen's appeal as well against the ruling that has already been made on him. I still have with me Emmanuel Umore, a legal practitioner. Thank you very much for still staying behind. I will also have Ugochukwu Ikeako, a political analyst as well. Gentlemen, now we shift our lens to the extension of the tenure of the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria. Quickly now, Ugochukwu, weighing on this matter, the President made a request that the tenure of the acting CJN is extended. The law allows this. And now the NJC gave its nod, said, okay, we give you the go-ahead. What do you make of this move, talking about due process?
Well, I have my reservation against what has happened so far. For me, I think it's illegal, all right? And even the extension so far, for me, I think it's still illegal. The reason
the law allows it; it's not illegal.
No, I'm saying the whole process that I've made that took Onnoghen out of office, all right, we can't at a point start justifying legality, whereas the process itself, the beginning process itself was illegal, all right? Currently, there is a justice in Lagos that was arraigned last week, Justice Ajimobia. And before Ajimogobia, and the NJC ruled for her to be dismissed, all right? That wasn't applicable on Onnoghen case, all right? And if NJC now goes back to accept that, to work with the presidency to say, okay, we'll approve this person to stay for 3 more months, all right? I think it's a case of sealing an illegality that happened initially, and that's my take. It's not right. And I don't know how NJC is going to clean up his house, all right? Because what has happened so far for me is the abuse of what we call that judicial arm of government, because things have not been done. If Onnoghen was found guilty by the NJC, all right, the whole Code of Conduct Bureau getting in an active chief justice, where we have a chief justice in court, I think it's just a mockery of that arm of government. That's my take.
Okay, now Emmanuel, quickly, you two also weigh on this matter now. Talking about doing better. Initially, we had the uproar when we saw the suspension of Walter Onnoghen, and the judiciary was somewhat divided when it came to this matter. And some were throwing stones at President Muhammadu Buhari that you cannot just do that without following due process, talking about the NJC. And now he's gone over to the NJC, lobbied and said, I would like to have the acting CJN extend his tenure for another 3 months. And they said, okay, is he trying to do better? What do you make of this move necessarily?
Well, constitutionally, Honorable Justice Onnoghen, having resigned, having written his letter of resignation, it has taken a new turn.
That was the recommendation of the NJC.
Yes, he had complied. He could have refused to write a resignation letter. Having submitted a resignation letter, the Constitution comes into play, because the Constitution says that a person who is a CJN shall continue to be CJN unless he resigns, or he dies, he resigns, or for any medical reason he cannot continue. Then the only other way it can be removed is by a presentation of, after the NJC has found him guilty, a presentation by the President to the National Assembly and a 2/3 majority of the Senate to remove him. Now, having resigned, that aspect of the requirement of the Constitution is no more. That does not take away the fact that the earlier act of suspending him was illegal.
Is this resignation or retirement?
Resignation. You cannot retire. It is the person who, when you resign, the person who you send in your letter of resignation, because you are leaving. Now, the person who you are sending a letter can decide to retire you get, or say, refuse your letter of resignation and go through the hog. But what I think is being done now is the president knows that it's going to be difficult for him to get a clearance of the acting CJN in the Senate, in the 8th Senate. So I think he's holding on till after he's swearing in
of the 9th National Assembly.
Of the 9th National Assembly, where the APC has a majority, and you have a lot of new senators coming in who may not understand the interplay. And at that stage, it will be easier for him. But that's politics. Talking
about the interplay now, to what extent really do you think we'll see any new intrigues talking about the expiration of this 3 months? Because everybody waited some sort with bated breath with the initial first 3 months after assumption of the office on January 25th, and now it's over, and then we are being told that the president has requested that he stays another 3 months, extending his tenure. As acting CJN.
Now,
so
there are
if
two things.
That ends now as a legal practitioner.
One, Onnoghen is still the CJN, even though he has resigned. His resignation has not been accepted. That's one. Two is this. The president cannot appoint on his own the CJN.
It needs the backing of.
It must submit its name to the Senate, and the Senate must screen and approve that person. Now, if the Senate screens and refuses to approve that person, that name, then there's a crisis, because that person now has to step down. And then the president does not want to take such a risk. And it's the same thing, even in the United States of America, where you remember when Obama was still in office, he nominated a Supreme Court justice. The Republicans who were in charge of the Senate and and of Congress then refused to put the man's name for screening, and they held him down until Trump was sworn in, and Trump now nominated his own a Republican candidate. These are part of politics. That's a part of it, you know. That's why the Constitution does not allow you, what the executive did, to interfere in the running or in the affairs of the judiciary. That's why the Constitution placed the National Judicial Council as the body supervising
supervisory body
the judiciary, and giving it an independence. Don't forget that the National Assembly has the power of the purse, but several times the National Assembly has invited certain ministers, and the ministers have refused to go because the president told them not to go. The National Assembly has invited the president several times to come and address it, or summon the president, but the president has not gone. The National Assembly does not, even though it has powers of arrest, cannot order the arrest of the president. You understand? So these are some of the checks and balances that are there. So there's no way, there's no power that the executive has to suspend the head of the judicial arm of government. There's no such power.
Okay, now quickly moving on now, Ugochukwu. Walter Onnoghen, Justice Walter Onnoghen has been convicted, found guilty, and intends to appeal against this ruling, the charges of false asset declaration, and now has been barred from holding any public office for the next 10 years. What do you make of this ruling, and what do you think is next for him in terms of exploring this appeal?
Like I said earlier, that for him, he's been an outstanding judge, all right, and there are grounds for him to appeal. But my reservation on this is clear, all right? You can't start building something on a wrong foundation, then in between the project, you start doing things right.
But what next with this appeal now? To what extent can it really go far with it?
You can go as far as the court allows it. And it can go as far as, but the truth is this, we'll have a court where at this point you don't know whether they stand for the Constitution or they are there to do the biddings of the president. All right, and that is a bad thing for our democracy. That is bad for us as a country. All right, because what it means that we are not practicing democracy as we should. We're moving into a situation where one man is ruling, is in charge. Even if Onnoghen has done something wrong, even if it was clear, like Justice Onnoghen was caught in an act doing something that is against the Constitution, that is illegal. The police, there is a standard way. There's something that has been established over the years of this is how you go doing things. So what has happened over the last few months that we've seen with this case is an abuse of the court process, is an abuse of our own democracy.
But our law states this very clearly. You are innocent until found guilty. And evidences have to be brought before you can be said to be guilty.
But at the end of the day, removing him before anybody could declare that he was guilty or not shows that the whole thing didn't go through the right process, it didn't go through the right channel. All right. See, the conversation about an acting CJN having a 3 months extension. All right, because like he said, if you look at like you mentioned earlier, Brett Kavanaugh. All right, Trump brought him in as the candidate of the Republican at the end of the day. It took a while because they had to go a lot of back and forth. Is this the Democrats opposed it and the rest of them? But the thing is this, all right. When when you see that, you say, okay, it seems that this judge is coming in to do the bidding of the president. So, okay, we're in a situation where this whole thing has happened, and the National Assembly are supposed to do their own checks and balances, the judiciary. You see, when we don't have a democracy, it's hard to say this thing, we don't have democracy in its true sense at this point in our country, all right? Because the idea that President Buhari campaigned as a reform democrat in 2015, that was part of the thing that brought him in, all right? But the actions of what we've seen with regards to what has happened within the judiciary executive over the last few years does not show that this person is a reform democrat, and we can't continue with this approach. We need to come to a place as a country where what the constitution say is final, whether the president likes it or not, because pushing Onnoghen out illegally and trying to cement everything legally at this point is flawed and is wrong, and nothing anybody does at this point will cover up for the mistake and for the misdeed and for the abuse of our democracy and the three arms of government at this point. That's
what do you make of his stance?
There are certain parts of what he has said which I will not accept as a legal practitioner. One of them is this, that the courts are independent. Mr. Onnoghen has appealed. Let us await the decision of the court. Because you see, like I said the last time I was in this program, this studio, precedents are being set. The justices of the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court have their eyes on what will be said of them tomorrow. Because judgments are not...
Sorry, but that's practically not what we're seeing at this point, because Justice Ajimobi just did the opposite.
Okay, let him just...
Judgments that are given are there forever. They are written. They are published. You get? If judgments that are unlawful, that not judicial, come out of the appellate courts, they will be criticized. It is to their names. Those judges will be criticized forever. Now, the issue of Justice Ajimobi, I want to put it properly so you understand what happened there. The court struck out the case because of the decision of the Court of Appeal in Nguta and FRON. Now, there the court held that a court cannot try a judicial officer until he has been taken before the NJC, and the NJC
and having the jurisdiction to do so.
Has determined that he is guilty of, he has been found, you see, generally it's not even criminal guilt. They may find out that you have embarrassed, it's enough for that you have embarrassed the judiciary for them to remove you from office, to ask you to. Now, it is when you are out, that cloak of that judicial cloak has been taken away from you. That is when you are taken before the police, and the police will now charge you to the court, and you will be stripped of, you would have been stripped of the judicial cloak. It's the same thing that happens in the military. It's the same thing that happens in the police. If a military officer is guilty of a civil offense, the military first tries him.
More quickly now, Emmanuel, I'd like you to weigh on this. To what extent will you say the judiciary is corruptible? Because if we are having the Justice Walter Onnoghen, who knows to a certain extent what the law says and is appealing against this ruling, which has found him guilty. To what extent, whether or not, because Ugochukwu pointed out that in his own opinion, and in other people's opinion, they believe that the judiciary sometimes gets compromised.
No, he didn't say that. But let's put this. Let me answer your question. The NJC did not find him guilty of corruption. They said that with what has happened, that it is no more appropriate for him. It does the stature. He no more has a stature to be a CJN. They didn't ask him to be this. They said he should be retired. That's one. Two, the decision of the Code of Conduct is appealable. And let me say one thing here. A judgment has been given. The judgment of the Code of Conduct went against all its previous judgments. All from the one from Tinubu, the one where Tinubu was arraigned by the Code of Conduct, up to the last ones of Nguta, JSC, who has gone back to the Supreme, is now sitting in the Supreme Court. So these are the reasons why if you have read, I don't know, I may send you a copy of the appeal of Justice Onnoghen. You read it, you see the substance in it. Because these courts are bound by precedents. Your previous judgment.
Okay, Manuel, for the lack of time now, we have to wrap up our conversation. But quickly, Gochuku, weighing on this now, SARAP has also extended its request, the Freedom of Information request to the CCB chairman, asking for answer declarations by successive presidents and state governors from 1999 till now. Do you think SARAP is overreaching? Do you think it has every reasonable reason to call on this?
I think it's clear that if you request accordingly for the FY information regarding like maybe
from 1999 till date, all of the declarations.
No, but it is in order with what the law says. Request, ask for it, and hopefully they will get that information. The FOIB has been signed, all right. Even the fact that some states are yet to domesticate the laws, especially Lagos State, all right. So if that happens, it will be fine. We'll get to see what has happened in the past. But I think at the end of the day, let everything be done. My argument is this with regards to Onnoghen, whoever it might be, let everything be done following what the Constitution says.
Do you think this will see the light of day?
Well, I don't think so. There's a lot of politics inside, and there's a lot of people that are not like to see.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Emmanuel Omoren, a legal practitioner, and Ugochukwu Ikeako. It's always nice to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
And now we'll bring you our Plus Politics packages. When we return, I'll give you my take in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Thank you very much, sir.
So
President Muhammadu Buhari has been tasked to give his assent to the recently passed Nigeria Police Reform Bill 2019 by the Senate. Though the bill still needs concurrence from the House of Representatives, a coalition of civil society organizations are calling on President Buhari to take the issue of police reforms seriously and sign the bill into law when it is transmitted to him by the National Assembly. The coalition says the bill will transform Nigeria's police force, which has suffered from an image problem in recent times.
This is a significant milestone in the quest to reform the Nigerian police force in Nigeria. We commend the Senate for this development and urge the House of Representatives to do the same without delay. We also commend the National Assembly for passing the Police Trust Fund Bill. We observe with concern the recent extrajudicial activities of some operatives of the Nigerian police force and other security agencies across Nigeria, and we are assured that this bill will go a long way to addressing some of the challenges in the policing framework and practice of the country. We urge the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to assent to the police bills with urgency that the subject matter demands. Passage and assent of the bills will reflect this administration's commitment to improving policing and public security in Nigeria.
You need that bill as an accountability tool and ensure that even the police institution themselves, they will need to be trained and retrained on the provisions of the bill, and linking that again with questions around if the bill has enough stringent penalties. I recall that when civil society, some of us were working towards the public hearing, we looked at that bill and said some aspects were not stringent enough, and we made recommendations. Right now, as we speak, that bill has more information in it that when you see it, you see that yes, this bill is people-oriented, is service-oriented.
One of the key issues with police abuse is resourcing. When police don't have funds, they can't train the officers, they can't recruit the right people and train them, they can't provide modern equipment that will enable them operate professionally. They then resort to crude or what have been because of third-degree types of policing, including torture and so funding is very key, and it is part of this bill. The president will have to. We expect that he will demonstrate his commitment to police reform by one way to do that is to assent to this bill. We'll be surprised if he doesn't do it.
Time to bring you my take. Until Nigeria gets to the point where we follow due process, have the dividends of democracy reaching everybody, well, we would still say our democracy is growing. To the entire party, APC, that is pulling the strings to ensure that their people leading the National Assembly, well, there are no issues or anger over religion or tribe, and it is all about the politics and party. We hope that these same leaders use the same favor to think about the good of the people. I also hope that as citizens we see very clearly squarely through our lenses and how our leaders are not divided when it comes to unifying benefits, so should also not fight over ourselves using religion or tribe. I look forward to this 9th National Assembly. It is going to be quite interesting. Thank you very much for joining me on today's edition of Plus Politics. Join us again tomorrow, same time. I'm Dave Dalabi. Many thanks for watching.